let's go to our next caller here. This is Yale. Hello, Yale.
Hey Bart, how's it going?
Pretty good. That's a pretty cool name, Yale. Is that short? Is that your full name?
Yeah, it's my real first name.
Real first name?
Parents,
Cool.
yeah, they got some ideas apparently.
Welcome to the club of uncommon first names.
Yeah, I'm in there.
I don't meet many. Actually, I probably have met more Barts than I've met Yales. But where's this hand coming out of Yale?
I play this hand in Black Hawk, Colorado,
Okay.
which is about 45 minutes outside of Denver.
I have never played a hand of poker in Colorado. I know that.
You wouldn't have until a couple of years ago because
Okay.
they had $100 max games.
Right.
So yeah, I'm actually a traveling vlogger, mostly based in LA.
Oh, that's right. Somebody said your name, and I forgot to say it. So what's your YouTube channel?
Called LiveKingPoker.
LiveKingPoker. Okay. Yep. This is Yale Greenfield. LiveKingPoker. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Give it a shot.
so I try to get around and just play some different spots. So
Uh-huh.
I did like 6 weeks in Denver.
Okay.
So this is it's at the Monarch, which is the only place like games like higher than 2-5.
Okay.
They don't run regularly, but they kind of run on the weekends. And this hand is 5, 10, 20 no limit, so the straddle's on, and effective stacks are 5K.
Oh, so it's a big game, huh?
Yeah, when it runs, it can get big. The straddle is like some of the time, it's not all the time. Like whereas like if you play LA and you play a lot of the 5-10 games not at Commerce, it's like kind of always with the straddle.
I know you're on your phone, Yale. You're not cutting out. It sounds like maybe you're going away from the receiver. Just try to talk into the mic. Okay, so big game, 5, 10, 20, 5,000. Probably aren't many that pros because I never hear about anybody playing really much in Colorado. Okay.
So I'm under. Let me know if I'm cutting out. I'm on AirPods in a quiet place, so hopefully
Okay.
it's clear.
Yep.
I'm under the gun with 10-9 of spades
Okay.
into 60.
Okay.
Small blind calls, nondescript recreational, and straddle calls.
So is this the standard open size in this game to like 3x?
Yeah, most people probably open to 3x. I mean, I think anywhere from 60 to 75 is standard.
Okay. Okay, so small blind call, straddles call, so we're
I don't
like
know if you have any thoughts on that this deep.
to 3x. I mean, there's more dead money out there, right? Because of the 3 blinds, and you're fairly deep. So I would probably use just a slight. I mean, it's very, very subtle. I mean, I would probably use somewhat of a slight. I think it also depends on the table dynamics too. I mean, it was one of the most common questions that I get from beginners is like, well, what am I trying to do? Like, I have aces and kings, and I want to only get like 2 callers, so I'll raise it to like 7x. And I say, really, like, I want to raise to a size where people are calling with dominated hands, meaning like in Texas, if people are still calling with like queen 10 off and queen jack off to 4x or 5x, then I'm probably putting in more money with good value hands pre-flop. I mean, that's sort of my approach.
Yeah, I think that's very reasonable. I guess at this table, I wasn't too sure at the time, so I'll default to 60 until I see people just are kind of willing to call whatever.
Okay, so bottom part of your open range from up front, 10-9 of spades. Okay, what's the flop?
Flop is 8 of spades, 7 of clubs, 3 of diamonds.
So 8 of spades, 7 of clubs, 3 of diamonds. This is sort of middle, low, disconnected. Pretty good sort of, I would say, dynamic board to kind of run barrels. I mean, it's a little bit connected. You've got great properties, right? 2 overcards, 3 to a straight flush on top.
Yep.
Besides hitting your hand, it's probably not a bad flop.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be probably like one of our best bluff, semi-bluff candidates.
Yeah.
So they both checked to me, and I bet 80 into 190, I believe, should be the pot size.
Okay, so you bet 80 into 190, which is sort of an in-between sizing that is sometimes repped a little bit live. I mean, you could go... Here's the thing, like, if you don't want to look at this like theoretically, if you're opening 7s and 8s here, and the only thing you're not opening is 3s, you could actually take a large size here. I mean, small blind shouldn't be that loose. Obviously, the straddle can be somewhat wide, but you could might be one of these things where you might vary your size based upon your stack, and you guys are actually, fairly deep. You could always take a sort of a 1/3 size with a more sort of robust range of hands, but I don't think it would actually be that bad in this spot to actually go a little bit larger to set up barrels. But okay, so 80 into 190.
Yep, small blind folds.
Okay.
And the straddle calls.
And of course, you're always supposed to sort of go smaller multi-way. Anyways, that's multi-way theory. So, I kind of washed over that. But so straddle calls, and now it's 370.
I've got 350.
350. Okay. So
yeah,
350. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess just like small caveat, like I had played with the straddle probably, I don't know, 20 hours or so. He's pretty sticky, pretty tricky, pretty tough. I know he played, like, he told me, like, in just chatting, like, he played some LA streams, like, back in the day.
Okay.
So, like, he's definitely played at some higher stakes, stuff like that. An experienced player, but not a professional.
Okay.
Turn is 3 of spades.
So you pick up spades.
Yep.
Okay.
And he checks. And I thought this was, like, a relatively tricky decision point. It's like a spot where we pick up equity, and barreling seems good, but also trying to move somebody who's relatively sticky, like off of a good 8 or some other hands. I thought this was kind of close here on the turn.
Well, I think when the board pairs, though, here on the bottom card, now the thing is that obviously he can be wider here in this spot because of the fact that he was basically closing the action, and he can have a 3. Like, I do realize that, but I honestly, I think I take pot sizing here. You represent all the overpairs, and it's very, very difficult for him to continue on with 8 or 7x because the board is paired, because obviously if you do have overpairs, him making 2 pair doesn't make a difference, right?
Yeah.
But
so
he
you
can,
like pot?
I think this might be a spot. A deuce would be slightly better. I think a deuce would be slightly better because it would be, very, very disconnected. But this is pretty good as it would get here.
I think a big size does make a fair bit of sense, like bigger than what I did. I actually bet 250 into 350. So
you went like 2/3.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say about that, this is where it really, again, it plays into stack depth with sometimes the way that you shape these hands. But you have monumental stack depth. So, because the only time I would probably take this sizing is if it made sense where I was setting up what would be a more logical river shove. So whereas if I went pot to like 1.5x pot and the guy called, there wouldn't be enough left to bluff him at the end. So I wanted, but you have enough stack depth where, you have this flexibility to go larger. So you go 250. Okay.
And to be clear, you don't like to check here, like ever at all.
I don't check
with
here.
This combo. Okay.
I don't check here. I think he's forced to fold out. And also too, like, you're losing to some hands that aren't even unpaired. Like if he somehow like is calling with some sort of ace high with a backdoor because he's closing the action, you're behind a jack 10. You know what I mean? You only have 10i.
Very, very fair. I just wanted to check on my boxes.
Yeah, no problem. So what does he do?
So this is where the hand goes off the rails, and he check raises to 650.
So straddle check raises to 650. So it's 400 more.
It's just like one of those like live spots that comes up where you're just like, wow, it's number one, like you don't exactly expect to get check raised on this card.
Right.
It kind of like, in a sense, it squarely reps a 3, right? But also like this, I guess I kind of want your thoughts, with all your live experience. The size is like really peculiar. And I'm just sitting there, like, in game, and my head is, like, sort of exploding.
Why? Because it's so small?
Like, I don't know, like, yeah, like, what are the chances that he just flatted 8-8 or 7-7 on flop, and now is kind of just, like, pumping the pot, a little bit. Obviously, like, we have a hand that improves, which could be drawing dead. I don't know what the odds of that are. And simultaneously, like, the price is incredible. Like, right. I just have no idea what he's doing here. When he takes this size, I just don't know what's going on, really.
I think it's a little bit nitty for people to say just to fold here. I think that this could be 3x. Yes, the guy could have a boat It's kind of interesting though, because a lot of boats would want to. I would think you'd want to actually play this as a check call because of the dynamic nature of the board. If you're up against a good player that's going to value bet all over pairs, and then also value bet hands that they run into, actually running into top pair, and are capable of running bluffs. These are the spots to sort of, kind of slow play off. And I mean, it's possible that he might have eights or sevens, but it's also possible that he might have, obviously like a hand like a 3. You block some spades, probably the primary ones that are sort of combo draws here. I'm trying to think if there's ever other spade type hands. I mean, once in a while I get spade type hands, but I think the price is probably too good to fold here. It looks like it's 1250, 400 for you to call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So do you call?
I do call.
All right. So 1650 here to the river.
River's a 4 of diamonds.
Yep.
And now he checks.
Oh, and I remember this one too.
Actually, yeah.
So he checks the river.
Yeah, and I think when you take the whole line together, like you said, he's closing the action in the straddle, getting a really good price. He peels a flop, getting a pretty good price. He does this less than 3x turn check raise on a card that, I mean, undoubtedly, but when you look at my upfront range, like clearly better for him on the turn. But the size is like very bizarre, very like live poker. I don't know. It's just like one of these things that comes up ever so rarely. And now he just checks on like a complete brick.
So I actually texted one of our content creators and coaches, Mark Goon, Squish My Tomato, about this river spot. I texted him last night about it because I said, because he's been sort of in the weeds with theory and in solvers and stuff like that. And I said, I want your take on what would you do here at the end in terms of bluff sizing, because I think the theory would say you're really at the pure bottom of your range here. There's a couple competing factors here. You're at the bottom of your range here. So, you have to bluff. And the question is like, what sizing? Is it huge or something like that? But him and I kind of agree with sort of the live tendency here. I think you can probably take a really, really small sizing here and give yourself a price on a bluff just to get him to fold out some random shit if he was just taking a shot, or some sort of other sort of random other types of like spade combos or something like a 7x of spade, something like that. Because I don't think that a guy is checking a 3 here or checking boats much. So it kind of lends me to think that he's not all that strong. Now, some players are sophisticated enough, but if you have sort of two things going on here. The guy is either trapping you some of the time, and obviously you don't want to bet big because you're just falling right into it, or he has nothing. So if he has a range here of something that's very strong or something that's very weak that's going to fold to say like 400 or 500 on the river, then that's probably the bet to make, is 400 or 500 on the river, because you don't care when he's strong. You're just trying to get him to fold out the other type of garbage. Now, I will say,
right,
though... Go ahead.
I was going to say, what about hands like, I guess it's like your hands like ace 8 ever take this like turn line, river line? I know it's a small amount of combos.
I mean, I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I mean, okay, like that would be it. I mean, somehow, like if he has like 9s, 10s, or ace 8, which would be really weird, you could make a case where going full pot or over pot might fold those hands. That's such a small portion of his range. Now, I will say, though, something that is not a counter, but it's sort of the unbalanced nature of going with what I was saying is that what would you do here if you had an overpair? Meaning, if you had kings on the turn, okay, and you bet, and you continued to the check raise, and now he checked at the end, what would you do?
Well, I actually thought about this exactly in game before I decided to do what I did. And I think I would bet like a 2/3, 3/4 size if I had kings or aces. I mean, I just think you have to bet for value when the guy takes this line. I agree with you that it's almost never 3x or a full house once he checks the river.
See, I don't know if I agree with you, and Mark Goon agrees with me on this, because we both said, as crazy as it sounds, that we'd be checking behind a lot with overpairs. And because I go back to what I think this represents through this action of check raise on turn and check river, it's either something that's very strong or very weak. So I wouldn't be betting an overpair here into that range that I put him on, which is the reason why I want you to bluff kind of on the small side. So it's kind of like a live hack. It's sort of a live dynamic, but I have checked back some very, very strong hands like overpairs and spots like this. And the spots to do it would be when you think your opponent, and even more so with an overpair because you would unblock a lot of these combo draws, when you think your opponent's check raise, check river sort of range is missed draws or something that's trying to play a trap. There's no real reason to bet. But I think I still like 4 or 500. What did you end up doing?
I bet 1,000.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I didn't go with. I in game, just so you know, I only considered very big, and this size I never considered like a 30% size or 27%, whatever this is that you're suggesting. I'll be honest, I never considered it. I see the rationale for it. Like if you've got Queen Jack of Spades or something like that, like obviously 500 just gets the job done. And those are the hands we're targeting. And I can totally see the argument where 1,000 is just risking more than you need to try to make all these types of hands fold once he takes this this line that I just couldn't tell you the last time I saw a line like this.
I gotta be honest with you. The other thing too is that, I mean, I'm probably not gonna be in the spot check raising your 2/3 bet on the turn with like ace 8. But if I check raise some middling hand on the turn, like 9s or 10s for protection, and then I check the river and you bet 1,000, I would still get very curious here for the same reasons that we talked about, and I'd probably find a call thinking that you wouldn't be betting an overpair. Now, maybe that is slightly overthinking it, but you can sort of go down the road. So What ended up happening? You bet 1,000 and?
He snap called, and I turned my hand over, and he tabled his 5-4 of spades, which was a flopped gut shot, a turn flush draw, and a rivered pair.
Wow, that's kind of crazy because that's exactly what you want. Well, he paired the end, but those are the hands that we were trying to sort of fold out. And he still called you for 1,000 though, which is kind of insane because that might be one of those ones where maybe larger sizing actually does get the fold, but it might just be that his rationale was sort of in line with mine, where he didn't think you'd be betting an overpair here in this spot for this type of sizing.
Yep.
It's pretty interesting. Thank you very much for the call, Yale. I appreciate it. And that is LiveKingPoker on YouTube, right?
Live. Yep. Yes, sir. Thank you so
right.
much for the time. I appreciate the thoughts.
All right, Yale.